All right, everybody, we're going to get started here on the main stage. I know that we're all friendly and pretty juiced up from the lunch. So if we could make our way to our seats, we're going to get into a three-part series that we constructed for you on this afternoon. So in the three-part series, I'm going to kick us off with a setting the table conversation that will lead us to how we leverage the language, tools, and people of the value acceleration methodology. So the first session that we have together today is, again, centered around utilizing the language and tools. And then the next two sessions, panel 1 and panel 2, tie to this foundational speech around setting the table, and we will learn how to leverage the many partners that we have. I think it's one of the core elements of becoming a best-in-class SEPA is being able to connect and collaborate with each other. And I think a lot of people seek out, we come to this very show, and we see there's so many of us, and then there's a whole slew of people over in the exhibit hall. And I think a lot of us on your forums, when you guys are providing feedback, the feedback basically says, man, this is a little overwhelming. How do I leverage all of this stuff, language, tools, and people? So I hope today that we kind of get through that, and when we go over for the welcome reception, when we see our partners and sponsors and each other, we know exactly how to plug them all in. For those of you that I don't know, a little bit about my background and my perhaps exit planning story. My exit planning story, although I probably didn't call it exit planning back then, started in 2010. 2010, I sold my first company as a landscape and snow and ice management company. Believe it or not, I actually went to school for horticulture, though dropped out of that because I went to run my company. I had one job my entire life. I worked for about a month at my high school. I was a janitor. Of the West Wing bathrooms, and you can imagine I went to a private all-boys school. So when my classmates found out that I was cleaning the basement bathrooms, the bathrooms got a lot dirtier. So I decided to say, look, I think let's throw a lawnmower in the back of a car and call each other landscapers. And so my dad let me use his Craftsman mower, and my buddy could drive before me, so we loaned out his dad's 1996 Ford Taurus sedan, and we threw that lawnmower in the back of the trunk, and we go out and create a landscaping company. That landscape company grew over a 9 or 10 year period. We were eventually sold to a strategic buyer, a competitor of ours that liked our people, our process, our equipment, our client list, so on and so forth. And in that moment, my dad, if you can imagine, has just become a certified exit planning advisor. Dad became a SEPA because he felt something was missing. He was an expert business consultant, but he had no personal planning in his toolbox, and he had no financial planning in his toolbox. And when he discovered EPI in this three-legged stool approach, he went to go gain his certificate. I think he's certificate number 93. Hangs on the office wall inside of EPI HQ in our foyer still to this day. And Dad was going through and trying to integrate his SEPA stuff while I was totally outside of the space, working in my business and going through a transition. I can remember when Doug, the guy that bought my company, called and he said, hey man, have you ever thought about selling your business? And I go, no, but I think this is what my dad does. And so Dad helped me get through that transition, but then immediately I fell into that, I fall into that statistic that we see all the time at Price Waterhouse that says 75% of owners profoundly regret selling their business just a year after selling it. And if you've heard this story before, I always call it like my high and my low. If you knew me back in 2010, I was actually kind of a difficult dude to be around. And it all kind of came back to I had lacked identity. I can remember one of the first lessons during this period, this season of my life when I was going through this transition was from my dad, and he said, Scott, don't fall in love with that business, fall in love with business. Is that you're a natural entrepreneur. And so as I was trying to figure myself out over that 2-year gap, I had a little bit more money in my back pocket than my friends that were graduating or college and paying off college debts. So I said, look, I don't know if I need to work right now, but I want to go try to figure out what I wanted to do. Again, kind of a tough guy to be around. I say high, high, low, low because my high, high moment was I got to play soccer in the major arena soccer league, the MASL. I was a goalkeeper. And it was like a childhood dream, right? If anybody has done it, it's pretty cool to get paid for paid to play the sport that you grew up loving. I think I started playing soccer maybe at 5 or 6 years old, in little Smurf soccer, and running around and kicking balls, and everybody's just following the ball around. Nonetheless, I get to play and I get to travel, I get training, I get all this cool stuff. I was a backup goalkeeper for a team called the Ohio Vortex in the MASL. I get into a game. It's against the Cincinnati Swerve. First game we lost 21-2. And so that was the start of my professional career. Remember, it's indoor soccer, not outdoor soccer. I faced 68 shots in that game. And so I thought that was pretty damn good, though we lost. Nonetheless, during that time, the low is that I was actually going through a pretty bad divorce. And both the divorce and the soccer game are really, whether it's high, high or low, it all stemmed back to I truly lacked identity. I didn't really know who I was. I got together with Dad then after that, and Dad said, well, why don't you come into Aspire Management? I'm doing the SEPA stuff now, and help me position this and grow this consulting firm. And Dad and I shared what we called back then a passion for helping owners change their outcome. How do we help business owners drive value into their company while aligning business, personal, and financial goals? And at the time, back in 2010, 11, and 12, our profession was very siloed. The CPA was showing up one way, the financial advisor the other way, the consultant showing up this way, not combining. And so we come in to Aspire Management. I see the value acceleration methodology inside of my dad's business where he was consulting with business owners. However, back then it wasn't called value acceleration methodology, it was called BIGS, buy, improve, grow, and sell. Once I saw what him and his business partner were doing at Aspire Management, Dad and I started to challenge each other to say, look, maybe we should actually be, instead of working directly with business owners, we should work indirectly with the business owners and create a community of people that understand the core concepts of value acceleration, but also understand the process of value acceleration and how to bring collaborative teams all together, how to actually unlock the methodology and align our language, tools, and our people. And what we said is we wanted to help move people from very successful companies to long-term significant ones that were aligned to the business owner's goals and that were very highly valuable and very transferable. You see, for me, I think as a lifelong business owner myself, I think we're taught, and naturally, I actually don't think it's bad, I just think it is. I can tell you in my early career, outside of Dad, most of my business mentors, my business books that I was reading, the stuff that was being taught to me inside of my classrooms, they were teaching me how to run a very successful company. And I think many owners, even our baby boomer owners, who have owned companies probably it could be for decades, if you ask them if they were happy and proud in what they have built, I think they would say absolutely yes. Is that I have great relationships with my customers. Sometimes I even invite them to weddings and cookouts, and we have great process and systems. We make good money. I have all the cool stuff. Yeah, I feel successful in what I've built. But they go to transfer it to their sons or daughters or their employees, or they go to sell it to a third party, and they're kind of slapped in the face because somebody's called their baby ugly. You see, what they're realizing in that moment and many more moments to come is that although they concentrated on building a long-term successful company, it didn't translate directly to value creation. You see that they concentrated on income and not value. They concentrated on business and not business, personal, and financial goals. And so I think our purpose, and you'll hear me talk to this a bunch throughout our time together, our purpose for every single SEPA and advisor and partner in our room in this space, our job is to create significant companies and take those owners and help them align their business, personal, and financial goals and drive significant value into their companies. So I'll talk more about this as we debut from the main stage tomorrow. A couple of very special announcements that we want to share with you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when I open up. But it all stems back to this activation model. See, I think that we teach implementation, we teach the end goal. Get the owner into the value acceleration methodology and start the work. But we forget that there's a bunch of stuff, a methodology before the methodology that then teaches us, well, how to get them in to that triggering event engagement. How do I leverage all the people in this room, all the tools, the products, the services that they have, And how do I leverage the language that I learned inside of value creation? And I think the goal is if we can actually activate ourselves, we'll activate business owners, and activation plus value acceleration equals significant companies. See, there's a bunch of different opportunities that you have as a certified exit planning advisor that allows us to develop skills. Again, from leveraging language and tools, to working with the right people, to working with the right products, all that lead us to scalable practice growth and real impact with business owners. I'm challenging that in this activation playbook. We need to have a few skills that tomorrow morning I'll dive deeper into, but we need to be able to understand the business owner's mindset. We need to think more like owners ourselves and become value creators of our own. We need to understand how to take the technical methodology that we just learned and turn it into practical. Take the science and make it art so that I can activate a business owner and move them into value acceleration. And I believe we need to be able to understand the organizations and the people to collaborate, when to bring them in, how to leverage their expertise, and what kind of value do they drive for me and the business owner client that I'm introducing them to. Now, for our certified exit planning advisors in the room, you'll remember that your training told you that we get the owner to triggering event. If there's something that you can take, I don't think we've actually spent enough time on this, but the objective, I don't care if you're the financial advisor, the personal planner, the CPA, the attorney, the M&A advisor, the conversation that you're having with a business owner needs to lead them to triggering event. If you recall from your training, the triggering event engagement gives them clarity. It allows them to understand how ready they are from a business, personal, and financial standpoint. It identifies the gaps that they have in their business and in their life. It gives them a range of value. It's a massive clarity moment for the business owner. And what we found by studying our CPAs who are working with business owners is that if you can get the owner to triggering event and have that enterprise value assessment, if you will, done, 70% of the time the owner moves forward with action, the ultimate goal. So what I want to talk to you about today in setting the table begins with mindset. I was quite literally just on a YPO like last week before I came here. I was on a YPO virtual speaking engagement, and I was with two panelists. And the two panelists, I was the only non-technical advisor. One of them was a wealth manager. The other one was a family enterprise consultant, does family governance and things of that nature. We have 56 people on this YPO call. And as we go through the hour and a half together, they ask me, they go down the panel and they say, hey, can every panelist here, every subject matter expert, can you give us one piece of advice that you'd had for these owners and executives that are on our call today? And so the family governance person goes and she goes, well, yeah, my thing would be that you should have deeper family meetings that lead to this family governance structure. And if you can watch the people on the Zoom call, they're like, what in the hell is this lady talking about? You lost me. Then the wealth manager jumps on there and the wealth manager goes, yeah, we should have this kind of investment plan. And he goes down some other rabbit hole. And I was like, dude, you lost me. And so they go, Scott, what's your word of advice? And I honestly felt a little vulnerable, I guess would be the word, because I'm like, this might sound kind of silly. But honestly, my advice, if you're looking to explore value acceleration, if you're looking to maybe pivot your mindset into a value creator mindset, read a book. Simply pick up Walking to Destiny. And maybe even more specifically, dive into the 4 intangible capitals. You read the 4 intangible capitals, you'll realize, you'll go, oh, this is value creation. This is just what I call doing business. And I'm saying, you're right. My job, our job as a certified exit planning advisor is to help you take that from year-over-year success to long-term significance by managing and measuring the four C's. So I said, look, it's a great education. We just awarded a bunch of unbelievable advisors awards here. Just jump on their podcasts. Just read the book, read a chapter of the book and explore. That's my technical answer to you. No, it's not the family governance model. It's not the investment strategy, not yet. It's let's explore. And if we can intrigue and empower the business owner, we can move them to create action. But the first part of this is understanding and showing up to the owner and really meeting them where they are. So when I have these kind of empowering conversations, first it begins with I think the value acceleration methodology is absolutely universal. I don't care if you're a $1 million company or a $100 million company. I think you could be utilizing the value acceleration to power a better business and have a better life. But we don't deliver the methodology to the same owner the same way every single time. So we have to start adjusting our mindset so that we can help them build a value creator mindset. So for me, it starts by understanding the three biggest generations in the market today. 51% of American privately held companies are owned by a baby boomer. 43% are owned by somebody in Generation X, 45 years old to 60 years old, where boomers, give or take, are 60 plus, 60 to about 80 years old. The average baby boomer is 72 years old. Then you also have millennials, which I think are super interesting, and I think could be these boomerang exits. I think that by the time the 40-year-old millennial is 72 years old, they might be on their third, fourth, or fifth exit. They're not going to hold companies as long as their baby boomer counterparts have. But the first thing that we need to do is really understand who's sitting in front of us by understanding some general characteristics. I talked about this at our EPI Nashville chapter meeting, and I always get a bump and jive on this because they're like, well, that doesn't sound like me. Yes, there's cuspers, people that are like right on the edge of either generation, and it's not true for everybody, but from generational studies, which we do a lot at EPI, and we go to colleges and universities and utilize and leverage their studies, they would say that generally there's some characteristics. And so I pulled up, which on your screen, I pulled up the characteristics that I think are meaningful as exit planning advisors, as CEPAs. I pulled out these characteristics. I think it's meaningful to kick off our conversation and change the owner's mindset. So for the baby boomer business owner, you guys are the inventors of the 60-hour work week. You guys are passionate individuals. You're wildly inspiring for me as a younger, I guess, entrepreneur. I just turned 40 like 2 weeks ago. So I'm feeling maybe that's old. I don't know yet. We'll talk about it at the social. But nonetheless, I think that these folks are incredible. They have this unique ability to handle crisis and pivot and move through the economy. But knowing that the baby boomer business owner is core value success, passionate individuals, passionate about their career, passionate about their business, we know that they're likely going to lack some personal planning. They're likely going to lack maybe some identity. Who am I outside of my business? Hell, I've been working for 50 years. I've owned my business for 25 of those 50. When this goes away, what am I really going to do? So understand that personal planning is likely maybe not top of mind for them, but certainly something that they're trying to figure out. Now, Generation X, I also think, is prime time for exit planning. That's why I think we see in the State of Owner Readiness survey that 38% of this generation, people 45 years old to 60, want to exit their business in the next 5 years, and I think it makes sense. These folks believe they really value their time. They want to work smarter, not harder. They naturally seek this work-life balance. They want to exit sooner than their baby boomers did so they could hopefully harvest value from that company and then move on to other passions that they want to have inside of their life. Now, the millennials, I think, again, are going to be a wildly entrepreneurial generation. They're about 28 years old to about 45, 44 years old. There are two things that always stand out, and really both are me as well. As a 40-year-old, I'm right at the top end of that millennial generation. These two really stand out, I think, for us, for me and for us as business owners. Number one, we are very ambitious, but we're not very framed. Like if you go around the EPI office, like people hate when I go travel because I come back with a clear mind and I have about 1,000 new ideas, and our vice president of marketing and brand strategy page goes, dude, you need to slow down. But I'm very ambitious, not very framed. But now think about this from a value acceleration standpoint. So I can take these big 5 or 10-year visions, break them down into 3-year strategies, 1-year plan, and 90-day sprints. That's super helpful for a kind of a wild visionary type entrepreneur. And for the financial advisors in the room, I'm probably one of your worst nightmares. I'm a really tough client to have. I tell this story often, and I did it again just in January. We were down in, we're a generation that earns to spend. And so like any other business owner, guys, for me, the best place to invest any extra money that I have is back in my business. It's my biggest producing asset that I have. So if I have some extra money, I might want to create something new, or I might want to invest in my people. I think that's where I put my money. So my financial advisor tends to do some general and more conservative investing on my side. And at the end of the year, we're divvying up like where everything goes and what kind of stuff we want to do, right? Doing our annual planning. And he said, Scott, I need you to call me so that we can get approval for this wire transfer so we can put some money into your investment account. And it never came. So I'm kind of like, frankly, just kind of pushing them off to the side. And he goes like, dude, and we're friendly, right? And he's like, dude, text me. He's like, dude, when's the money coming? You've been blowing me off for like 60 days. We need to get this done, man. Like typical owner, right? Back burner. And I go, man, I'm sorry. it's actually never coming. And he goes, oh my gosh, did you have a bad year? It didn't turn out the way you wanted to. I was like, no, it's good. But I decided to buy a 1974 Ford Bronco. So I was like, well, it's probably not the conservative investment that I wanted, but we are in Charlotte meeting with the Legacy Motor Club NASCAR team. They have this awesome classic car dealership there called RK Motors. We walk in, I'm with Paige and Josh from EPI, and they thought we were just going there to hang out and look because we had a couple hours to kill. No, we walked home with a 1974 Ford Bronco. It's cool. I got some pictures of it if you guys want to see it. But not the conservative investing that I was told to do. So I think when I think about myself, I'm good personal planning. I like personal planning. Business planning, I'd like to think that I'm good there, but financial planning for me is probably one that what you might lead with because it hits naturally a pain point or desire that I have. Now this one is from our buddy Sean Hutchinson. I don't know if Sean's in the room or not. I saw him playing around the golf course. Sean's been an inspiration for me for over a decade. But he gave us this, and he has this, he might still have it on his website, but maybe he doesn't even know how important this actually was, but I think it's a true gift for our exit planning community. He describes owners in 3 ways, and I absolutely love it. So regardless of the generational characteristics, most owners are showing up in one of 3 ways. Number 1, they're triggered by something. They're either triggered by the 5 Ds, one of these destroyers of our companies, so that we're coming to you because I'm having a partner dispute, I'm going through a bad divorce, and for whatever reason, I need to get out and exit of my company. Or they're triggered in a positive way, like I was in 2010. I had a random offer to sell my company, and it looked good. And I said, well, I don't know if I'm quite ready to exit. I think maybe it's time to do something new. Here in this triggered mindset, we should know that there's not much we're going to be able to do with them if we have to take a deal here in the next 6, 12 months, next 3 months, right? It's not to say it's not bad or good, but just know that there's probably not much we can do for this particular segment. The next folks are explorers. Now this goes back to that YPO conversation. Those 56 owners on that YPO call on a program called Exit Planning and Value Acceleration, those 56 people were just exploring. We don't need to drop this deep technical information on them about family governance or investment management. We start high and we begin to intrigue them, because if you give the people in this group, explorers, too much, they're going to go, this is not it. It's what Joe has taught us too. Joe Scherzeri, he always says, I told him I was going to take this one too. He says in the SEPA program, you'll probably remember him saying this. He says it in the faculty for meetups. You need to be able to take an owner from yeah to hold on, say that again? But if you drop too much technical information on an explorer, you'll lose them. Now, our favorite clients our favorite potential clients are the pivoters, people that are actively pivoting their mindset, saying, look, I know that I'm 5 years away, or I know that I'm 10 years away, or frankly, I'm a younger owner. I feel like I'm hitting a ceiling. I want to decentralize. I want some more time back. I want some more personal freedom. They're saying, look, I want to engage you because I'm trying to actively pivot my mindset. And these are probably the ones that we want to do more work with, and in frankly, a quicker way. Then on top of that, so now we know the general generational characteristics. We know from Sean how these owners are showing up, a trigger, pivoter, or explorer. And then we have another tool that you should be using, so the state of owner readiness research. And now go through, in 2025, last year, we cut the 2023 data and made a generational report. It's not just good bathroom reading, it's good reading for us to activate ourselves with our business owner clients. So look at the different generations and see their readiness points for better or worse. Let it draw and lead your conversation, because if they're answering in that way, it's likely that you're going to meet them where they are and have a deeper and more holistic conversation with an owner. Again, the formula to trigger owner action is really, one, we intrigue the business owner. I think if you read, and if you were at our summit even 2 or 3 years ago, I had 6 owners on stage with me, and I asked them, before we leave, we have a sea of advisors out here that all want to work more with folks like you. What is your word of advice? All 6 of them said 2 things. One, the first theme was, I'm a relationship and I'm not a transaction. So I need you to kind of roll up your sleeves and get to know me, educate me, be patient with me, slow down to speed up. Number 2, they said, I'd love an accountability buddy outside of the core advisors or my owner peer group, like an EO or a Vistage or a YPO. And so what I think in the intrigue style behavior that we adopt as professional advisors, we slow down to speed up by asking the owner the right questions and listening. Now, if we start to intrigue the owner along the way, we could go and take it a step deeper, and we go from intriguing them to empowering them. Maybe this is where we take a triggering event engagement, or maybe one of the smaller engagements that you get to before the triggering event, just to start to empower the owner and move them into action. So that is mindset. That's our framework. Understand your generations. You leverage the State of Owner Readiness Survey and understand how the owner is showing up. Are they triggered? Are they pivoting? Are they exploring? So now I want to talk to you about the language and tools. This is some of my favorite stuff. Everybody that's a SEPA here, all of this will seem very recognizable. These are the key concepts of value acceleration. It's that first section in the Walking to Destiny book. It's the core concepts, the leadership principles of the value acceleration methodology. When you became a SEPA, we taught you them in a very deep way and a very technical way. Today, I want to spend 5 or 10 minutes talking to you about these core concepts in conversational ways, in action drivers ways. So that section of Walking to Destiny is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, if we all remember this. There are 5 stages to value maturity. There are 4 intangible capitals, 3 legs of the stool, 2 concurrent paths, and 1 goal, and that's to drive value. Now, I want you to start to use these in your conversations because it's an easy layup kind of way to begin able to leverage language and tools to help a business owner get intrigued and empowered. When I talk about the 5 stages of value maturity, I think it's super simple way to know the value acceleration methodology. It breaks down the complexity for an owner. Look, picture a staircase. At the top of that staircase is going to be managed value. It's after the liquidity event where we have the net proceeds and we start to manage that investment for a lifetime to come. But to get all the way up there at that staircase, I need to start all the way at the bottom and I need to identify value. I need to understand the value of my company, the range of multiples, range of value, and how personally, financially, and how business ready I am for this potential transition. So once we've identified value, we can step up one and we can move into protect and build value. So remember, we're always protecting value before we're more strategically building value. And this phase can last for years. Literally every single 90 days, we're renewing and going back in, protecting and building value until we say, look, we have to sell our company or we want to transition it to our sons, daughters, or employees. And we move into the harvest phase of the 5 stages of value maturity where we harvest that value and we manage it for a lifetime to come. In a nutshell, that's the value acceleration methodology. Now, the second is the 4 intangible capitals. If you do gift a Walking to Destiny book to one of your business owner clients, put them right into the 4 intangible capital chapter. Why? Because they're going to say, that sounds like running a business. You call it exit planning, I call it, frankly, just business operations. This is the stuff I care about all the time. What they're realizing in this moment is that exit strategy is business strategy. There's nothing different. We do stuff in our business every single day that eventually affects the value of our company. So why don't we start more intentionally driving value through focusing on the 4 C's? How do we measure it and how do we drive it? So the 4 intangible capitals, if you thought about it, is social capital. It's your culture, of course, particularly even in smaller, lower middle market or micro market companies. I would say that the owner could be the driver of culture. There's customer capital, right? I always love the owner that goes, man, I'm the best sales guy in my company. Right? So I have deep relationships with my customers. Then there's the systematic side of it, there's the structural capital side, and then there's the human capital, that's people. And every single day we walk into our shop floors, our office buildings, our storefronts, whatever it might be, and we care about our people, we care about our customers, we want to operate in an efficient way, and we're the drivers of our culture. That's doing business. What you didn't realize is that is also exit strategy. By managing and measuring those 4 intangible capitals, that's where 80% of your value lies. So let's make it intentional, let's make it a part of our conversations, and let's work on it every day. The next one is the 3 legs of the stool. It's the core concept for everything that we do at Exit Planning Institute. I think it's pretty straightforward. In order to have a significant exit, you need to have business, personal, and financial goals all aligned. Now, out of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the 2 is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. 1, there's 2 concurrent paths. If you think about the prepare gate, there are 2 paths that a business owner should run on in any given 90 days. There's a business path, and we all know this business path of owners because you guys are sitting here telling me, Scott, man, you got to work more on your business and get out of living in your business, man. We need to get you out and get highest and best use, decentralize. You're a visionary, right? You should be helping drive strategy, so on and so forth. We get that. I hear it all the time from my board, from my advisors, constantly trying to make that happen, running down the business path. But what I don't hear, and maybe because it's kind of silly or corny to say, but we'll say it anyways, is that there's also a 90-day path that's a personal path. You need to stop just living in your life and start to work on your life. At EPI, we hand out a one-page strategic framework, and it shows you the goals for the year, and then we update it every single quarter. And you can see if you walked around EPI HQ, you would see that it's hung up on people's cubicle walls, and it's hanging in their offices. It's on a magnet on their whiteboard. Wherever it is, it brings a clarity and connection to the end goals. Now, if you also looked at our company and walked around, there's a similar card, but it's not Exit Planning Institute goals and objectives. It's your personal plan. So every employee has the opportunity to hang, if they want to share it with everybody, right? They have an opportunity to hang it on their boards, hang it on their cubicles, hang it up in their office, and it says, these are 2 core themes of my life. These are the 3 to 5 goals that I want to do in my life, and here's how that relates quarterly. And if we have some metrics, we're going to put some metrics in there as well that draw to our personal path. But there's 2 concurrent paths that a business owner should be running on, a personal path and a business path. And the one goal is, I think, pretty straightforward. The one goal that we have is to drive value. Now, again, I alluded to this, but to reiterate and to let it sink in, if I'm utilizing those generational characteristics, and one of the key concepts of value acceleration, these 3 legs of the stool, when I'm approaching a baby boomer business owner, I might consider using personal planning as a lever to pull, because we know that they have their identity trapped inside of their business. And if I'm working with a Gen Xer, they're always looking to blend and balance their life. They want to have room for multiple passions. They have younger kids. They want to be involved. So maybe business planning will help them decentralize themselves from their business so they can have room for all these other passions that they have. And for millennials like me, financial planning is probably key. We are a generation that earns to spend. The one thing we did not talk about yet, it's not necessarily one of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 concepts, but I think it's a really great language and tool to leverage inside of the value acceleration methodology. We were also technically taught the 3 gaps that any owner has. We have a profit gap, a value gap, and a wealth gap. What I love about the wealth gap, I think many people that I bump into in the owner's world, when they think exit planning, they start thinking about having a better company. And I go, no, actually, I mean, in part, yes, but really, exit planning starts with a personal conversation. See, what we need to do is stop thinking about our businesses as just operating entities that we're tied to, but start to leverage them and think of them and use them as another asset inside of our portfolio. Now, likely our largest asset, no doubt, but it's another asset inside of your portfolio. For the baby boomers that might want to focus on personal planning, but they're numbers people, leaning into wealth gap, I think, really makes a lot of sense, because you could take a personal planning conversation and make it numerical as well. You see, in order to develop your wealth goal, we need to understand what the heck you want to do in your life. How old are you? Where do you want to go? What's health and aging? What kind of personal activities that you want to have? Do you want to invest in other businesses? Do you want to go speak and teach? Do you have any kids getting married? What do you want to do? If you remember The Perfect Exit, Andy Rayburn had to sell his business for $250 million, I think, because he wanted to go own a minor league baseball team. That was one of his goals. So you start working backwards and saying, well, if we're going to buy some baseball teams, we kind of need some money, so let's try to grow this thing and fill that gap. But it allows you to have a personal planning conversation while driving some numbers around it as well. And we know as certified exit planning advisors that there's going to be that wealth gap, and that wealth gap is going to be filled likely by our business. So now the natural conversation to have is, well, how the hell am I going to get the extra $200 million? Because I only have 50 right now. Well, we're going to get the extra $200 million by selling your company. That will fill that gap, or will it? What we find is that, man, I need $200 million, but my company's only worth $90 million right now. So I got a pretty large value gap in my business. Now I have to understand the benchmarks and what it is to be best in class. And we need to start working on right up that staircase again, identify value, protect value, build value, so we get to harvest. And then once we say, well, why are companies trading at this multiple or this multiple, we go into profit gap, and we can benchmark ourselves on financial performance and get other companies inside of our business. Just think about the clarity moment in that 2-minute speech that I just gave on the 3 gaps. I mean, I think business owners, this is where I was like, yeah, that's a great information. I understand my weak points, my strong points. You're telling me I could be more profitable. And then you kind of got me intrigued and empowered. You got me curious because now you're introducing this wealth gap stuff. And I guess I never really thought about what that was like. Now, some tools for you all to utilize and leverage here at the Exit Planning Institute. Tomorrow from the stage, you'll hear me talk about a member model that we have coming out. This member model has 7 different benefits that allow us to leverage the language and tools of value acceleration and have significant ROI in our businesses, and allows us to scale our companies and have real impact with owners. We're going to debut a 60-minute business owner meeting, a clarity point. I think the objective this year for me is to reduce the complexity for you and your clients, your business owner clients. A 60-minute meeting is we can all go back and show up, and now value acceleration is introduced in the same way. I don't care if you're here in Tennessee, up in Canada, if you're over in England, over in California, we're all showing up with the same value acceleration approach. We also have a business owner prospecting toolkit that allows us to have these deeper conversation starters. We have some pre-methodology assessments with some of our partners that we can use to help leverage and move along the conversation and bring clarity. We have drivevalue.com. We have a new app coming out tomorrow called SEPA Connect, and we have a massive group of partners and sponsors. In fact, the largest group that wants to serve our exit planning community is here with us today, and I can't wait to introduce some of them on stage here over the next couple hours, and also introduce them to you at the Welcomer Social and beyond. A really great group of folks that help us leverage not just products and services, but collaborative partnerships as well. Phase 2 of drivevalue.com has also come out. Phase 2 of drivevalue.com allows us to educate our business owners. Let us do the work for you. The way I would leverage drivevalue.com, and I would say, hey, to my business owner client, go into drivevalue.com. It's a bunch of owners that are going in there to learn about value acceleration, how to gain more freedom, how to gain more financial security, and how to build a better, more profitable, and more valuable company, introduced to you in a simple way. It reduces all of the complexity of the technical methodology, and it makes it conversational and the art. At drivevalue.com, there's a 4-step process. One is mindset. How am I changing my mindset to embrace value acceleration? What does that look like? It lends itself to the 11 actions every owner must take to rapidly grow value and unlock wealth. It takes the whole Walking to Destiny books and puts it into these 11 actions for owners. 2, we need to be able to measure value. Once we've measured it, determined it, we can go to 3, which is drive value. Now we can understand how to manage those 4 intangible capitals. And once we've done that, we can now start to think about how do I align? How do I align my business, personal, and financial goals? And for some of you that have to navigate some compliance, well, this puts you right around the compliance, because you can just say, hey, look, go to drivevalue.com. It's a third-party website, powered by the Exit Planning Institute, and you can go in here and help educate your clients. Leverage this tool. Now, remember, the one goal that we have here at the Exit Planning Institute inside of our methodology is, again, to get the owner to triggering event. What I'm here to teach you today, and I think really throughout the summit, is that we're also going to start teaching you activation. How do we activate you and activate your owner so that we can get more owners into the value acceleration methodology, be a part of this massive wealth transfer, and have copious amounts of wins along the way? And I can tell you why I wake up every single day here to serve you guys. I wake up every single day because I want to see this thing change. I want to see it go from successful to significance, and I think it bleeds all the way down to the employees as well. I'm 38,000 words into a book. I think I'm probably done. I'm exhausted. But nonetheless, this book is about how do I create more value creator employees? You see, I don't think it's enough for me to just change the business owner mindset. If I truly want to gain outlier multiples, if I truly want to see my business go into different multiple generations, or have my employees have success with this asset that they just bought from me, they all have to start thinking like me, like we. We have to have a value acceleration, a value creator mindset so that we all get to the one goal, which is to do the triggering event. Now, the last piece of this equation is our collaborative partners. How do we leverage all the people in the exhibit hall here to serve us? How do we leverage each other sitting at all these tables? How do I work with you? And so the next step in this equation is how do we get together with our collaborative partners? So I'm here to say that there's a core team. There's a core team that every business owner should have. They should have a financial advisor, a business coach or consultant, an attorney, a CPA, and a personal planner. We need much more advisors along the way, but these people are kind of the core that certainly sit around us and help us manage this massive value acceleration methodology that we have. So in the next 2 parts of this 3-part afternoon series, we are going to hear from different partners and how to leverage them and what type of expertise they can bring to the equation and they can bring to the team. Our first session is called Leading Early, how SEPAs create clarity and readiness for business owners. We're going to hear from all of these panelists, and we're going to go through a series of questions and have some discussion around, again, how do I lead early, drive clarity, and create more ready and attractive businesses and ones that are highly valuable. And then our last session is going to be one from insights to commitment, strategic collaboration in the Decide Gate. What I feel is that we're not leveraging enough people that we think are people that help us harvest value. I think you could bring somebody in like an ESOP consultant, an investment banker, way earlier on in the equation, up in the Decide Gate to help, again, drive clarity and break down complexity. You're going to hear me say it multiple times. We have a goal this year, and it's to activate you guys. And by activating you guys, we're going to activate our business owners. We're going to drive clarity and connection. We're going to break down complexity. So in this panel, we'll talk to our people that we might consider mostly in the Decide Gate and say, well, how do I leverage them earlier in the equation to bring more expertise to the business owner relationship. So I believe that it's a significant team approach. We're here to educate owners, not tell owners. We're here to be relationship focused and not transaction focused. We're here as SEPAs to lead with value-centric conversations that allow business owners to better understand how value is driven and how value is measured. We're also going to understand how we align those goals for the business owner along the way. And I think really the best in class SEPAs, these folks that we just saw on stage getting the awards, they've become masterful at collaborating and connecting people and bringing communities together. So we will be back inside of this room after a quick short break. We're going to dive into our first panel. We'll take another short break and drive into the third and final part of this series before we break and go have a good time. I appreciate you guys attending the Exit Planning Summit. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Thanks.